Okay, guys, so this is the finished penguin. I've got an animation, so we're going to create this character and animate it. Here's what it looks like with color. And if I put it in render mode, cycles, preview, you can see I've got a nice sky, good lighting, and looks pretty cool. So getting Penguin Guy made is the first step. So I'm going to go to make a new document, new general. First step is always go ahead and press 1 to get that nice squared straight view. So you know you're working from the front. I'm going to delete the default cube and I'm going to go in and add my reference image. So that's going to be image, reference, and in my downloads folder, there's the penguin that I'm using for reference. So there he is. So great. Now I need to make his body. So that's going to be Shift A. I'm going to create a mesh cylinder. And the first thing I need to do is make sure down here in my options, what's that called? Operations panel, I put in 10 here because I need that to be a little bit lower res. I don't need all those. And I need to go ahead and hit G on my, click my reference image and center it because it's not quite centered. There we go. So now it's nice and centered. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead now and switch over to edit mode and hit Control R to create some loop cuts. I'm going to roll up my mouse. I need 8 of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to end up needing 8. So kind of like what we did with the fish, but a little bit different. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move these loops, and a fast way to do that is go ahead and put it in X-ray mode. That also means I can see through it, so I can make sure it's kind of fitting. So if I use box select, so there's box select there, and I draw a box, I'm getting both the front and back of that cylinder. So now I can hit G and Z and move that up, get it to the top of the head, and I can hit S to scale, and I can scale it down so it fits the top of the head. Then I can grab the next one, hit G and Z and kind of move it up, and then scale it down so it fits the head. And keep going. So G, Z. Yeah, that one don't even need to be scaled. That one can be moved up a little bit. I can't do 2 at once. Hold on. G, Z. And then the next one. So it's going to be really good to have one of these, G and Z, have one of these kind of at the start of where his arms are. So I'm going to scale that out just a little bit. So I want one of these loops kind of here where the start of the arms are. And then I want this bottom one. I'm going to go ahead and start working from the bottom now. G and Z, and I'll move that down. Scale it so it fits the bottom. The next one, G and Z. Oh, G and Z. Need to scale it in a little bit. And we want to try to make these as even as possible, so that they're not like really close together or really far apart, but they're just kind of spread out really evenly. G and Z, put that guy here, scale him out. And then I want this one to kind of be where the bottom of the arms are, because I need a loop that's both kind of at the start and end of the arms right there. That looks really good. Okay, so I've got the basic shape now. It doesn't have to match perfect because we'll smooth it out later. Okay, so good. So now I'm going to spin it around, look at it from the side. Yep, it looks good. I'll switch into solid mode, turn off X-ray. Okay, so now I need to create my arms. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to extrude out arms, and I can do them both at the same time so that they actually stay the same size. And so what I'm going to do is switch into face select mode. Up here, I'm still in edit mode. And I'm going to grab that face, and then I'm going to hold down Shift after I move over here and grab that face. So now I got the two sides, and if I just hit E to extrude, I can't really do it right. They kind of go sort of in a weird way. So I don't want to hit E to extrude. So I right click and cancel that. Instead, I'm going to hit Alt E, which gives me my extrude menu. And I want to do faces, extrude faces along normals. Alt E to get that. And then I just want to bring this up. Now I don't have to be looking straight. Like here's the straight view. So when you extrude things, they tend to just go straight away, like from the normals there. So you don't have to, be straight at it. But now I do need to be looking straight at it. So I want to move both of these down. And if you're lucky, you can hit this X right here, which puts it in symmetry mode, and then anything you do on one side gets repeated. Now let's see if that works for me. Sometimes it seems to work on this and sometimes don't. Yeah, look at that, cool. So if the X symmetry mode works, then you can move them both at the same time. Now what I want to do is kind of go over here, and I want to hit S and scale, and I just want to, oops, hold on. I want to scale this guy in a little bit and shrink that down. That ain't right. Turn off X for that. I want to hit S and scale, and yeah, scale that in a little bit. There we go. So I'll have to do both of these separately instead of use that X symmetry mode. And I just want to try to get them both scaled about the same so you can look at both sides. Yep, that one's a little smaller. Just get them close. Okay. And I'll go back in the see-through mode, press 1, and I'll use edge select. I'll use face select. I want to grab that face there, and I want to rotate it a little bit so that it's kind of straight out like that. And then I'll move it so it kind of matches that. You can scale it a little bit. It's okay if these don't match up perfectly. We just want them to be pretty symmetrical. So I'll go over here, grab that face, go back to my one view, rotate it a little bit, scale it a little bit, press G, move it. And I want to try to get these as similar as possible. So I got a little black on this side, a little black on this side. That looks really good. I think that'll work just fine. All right, so I've got arms made. Now my next step, I'm going to go into object mode now. Go back to object mode. My next step is going to be to create the eyes. So for the eyes, I'm going to make a UV sphere. So Shift A, Mesh, UV sphere. The UV sphere is going to be huge, so I'll need to scale it down. And here's where we use the 1 and 3 keys a lot, so or 7. So you can use 7 to kind of put it in front. That's the 7 view on the number pad. S to scale and get it kind of there. And then I can use the 3 key, and I can look at the side, and I want it to kind of fit in like that. And then I can hit the 1 key, and I want it to be there. And if I go ahead and turn on X-ray again, X-ray mode, then I can kind of see through these, and kind of see if it's kind of fitting, and it looks like it is about in the right place. It's hard to see it in X-ray mode. It kind of almost disappears. There it is. So yeah, you can use wireframe mode. I want that to be about in the same place and the same size roughly. Okay. So now we don't want to make 2 separate eyeballs. That would be a mistake because you'd have a hard time like making them symmetrical. So instead we're going to use modifiers. I'm going to go over here to the modifier, and we're going to add a mirror modifier. So underneath generate, mirror modifier. And remember, with a mirror modifier, you need to tell it what it's mirroring to. Otherwise it doesn't know where to go. So you click this and you pick that. All right, so then it's mirrored. Now, since this thing is the body, let's go ahead and we'll name it. Instead of cylinder, we'll call it body. And instead of sphere, we'll call this eye. And there we go. Okay, now, UV spheres make really good eyes because they're made of circles. And the circles can look a lot like irises and pupils and stuff. But to make that work, we need to spin these a little bit. We need to make them look downward. So, because the circles are facing up and down right now. So I'm going to spin it by hitting R, X, and then 90. And that's going to just spin it and it faces us. So I just rotated it 90 degrees on the X axis. So now we've got these perfect little circles that we can use to create eyes. Okay, so that takes care of the eyes. That takes care of the body, the wings. One last thing to make in this video here is we'll get the feet done. So the feet, we need to start off with a cube. So I'm going to hit Shift A, make a new mesh cube. Make sure you're in object mode. We still are. And I'm going to move that cube down here and scale it. I want to get it roughly about the same size as that foot, so pretty small. Remember, you can hit 1 on the number pad to zoom in, which is a lot faster than just scrolling the mouse wheel if you need to. So I want to go ahead and start off. We'll switch over to edit mode. And I want to go ahead and start off. I want to divide this in half because I want to make something that kind of looks like a boot here. And I'm going to go ahead also too, and I'm going to move it forward. So I'll hit G and then Y, and I'll kind of slide it forward so it's not getting cut off by the image. Okay, so, oh, bad mistake though. If you ever move anything in edit mode, its origin point stays put. So I'll have to reset the origin point later, but that's no big deal. Okay, Control R, and we'll put a loop cut, and we'll just put it right in the middle. So now we've got a top and bottom. And I'm going to turn this into the foot. So I'm going to get face select, and I'm going to extrude out the front of the foot. So maybe about like that. Not super long, but something about like that. Okay, now I want the foot, it needs to kind of, it's webbed. It's like he has little webbed toes, so it needs to get bigger. So I'm going to scale that foot. I'll just hit S to scale, and I'll just kind of scale it out. But, you know, I'm scaling it in all dimensions right now. So now I'm going to hit S and scale, but I'm going to scale it on the Z, and then just kind of shrink it back down a little bit. So that's going to make it get wider, you see, get wider, stays kind of flat. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we've done that, this is kind of the tricky part. We need to make the toes. So we need some points here that we can grab and move. And it turns out we need 5. So Control R, and I'm going to make 2, 3, 4, 5 loop cuts. I need 5 loop cuts here. And the reason why I need 5 is to make the toes, you have to have the point, but then you also have to tell it to go back. So I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to hit G and then Y. So Y locks it to the Y axis, so it makes it only come out. That way it doesn't come out at a weird angle. And I want to kind of pull that one forward. This will be my middle one, G and Y. Pull it forward. And then this will be the right side, G and Y. Pull that forward. And what you might want to do now is hit 7 to get the overhead view. Now, if this is a problem, we can't see it. So I'll go ahead and I'll hide the body for now. Funny joke, where are you hiding the bodies? And then I'll hide the eyes to get them out of the way, and we'll turn them back on later when we need them. But I want to look at it from above, because if I look at it from above, I can tell that I make it symmetrical. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. This one sticks out the farthest. These two are about the same. This one's a little bit longer than this one. So I might grab that one and just do GY and move it just a little tiny bit and see if that makes it symmetrical. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so now it's very blocky, and we want this not to be blocky. So we're going to do some modifiers. So going back to object mode so we can put modifiers on. The first modifier, let's go ahead and add the mirror again, and we'll mirror it to the body. I can pick body from this list since I know it's the body. And that'll put my second foot over there. Very good. But this next modifier is going to be called a subdivision surface. We've used it a little bit. Subdivision surface is, just use it all the time. It's like one of the greatest modifiers. So put that on, and you see it rounds everything out. We're going to use 2 on the viewport. It's already 2 at render, so we'll go ahead and click that up to 2. There we go. Okay, so you can see it kind of rounds everything out. That looks pretty nice, but it's too rounded. You know, they look almost too organic, and they lose some of their shape. So here's the great thing. If we switch this over to edit mode, you can see there's my original model, and there's how subdivision surface is changing it. So what's nice about this is, okay, I want a little bit more webbed toes. So I could grab these, and I could maybe pull that out a little bit, and I'll do that with the like maybe from the 7 view, so that it, yeah, see the mirror, both of them change. So I want a little bit more points than this one. So I'll pull that out a little bit, and then I'll go grab that edge, go back to my 7 view so I don't move it in different angles, and I'll pull that out a little bit. So, and then I'll go ahead and pull this one out just a little bit more, just to get me some bigger webbed toes, because the subdivision surface makes those get a little smaller. Now, another problem is this right here. That's way too slanted. You know, it loses its shape. It shouldn't be quite that rounded right there. So the way subdivision surface works, it goes from each edge and just kind of rounds it all out. So if you add more edges, so if I add a loop cut here, so I hit Control R and I make a loop cut, and you can see in real time how that's going to affect it. So if I have 2 loop cuts here, then the more loop cuts you have, the more that the subdivision surface keeps the original shape. So if I put that one there, then it makes it much more square. And then if I go ahead and add another one here, then that also makes it a lot more square. So there we go. Got it looking pretty good. Now, I would kind of like this to get smaller, but I'm just going to kind of hide these up in the body, these little parts here, so I'm not too worried about how them look. But yeah, so anywhere you add a loop cut, then it's going to be sharper and more like the original model when you need it to be. Okay, so great. Now I don't want to apply these modifiers yet, because once you've applied them, they're done. You can't change them. So what I could do now is go ahead and hit like the 3 key and hide my body and stuff, and put this kind of back into edit object mode and put that kind of where I want it to be. So probably about like that, kind of up inside the body. And since I moved it in edit mode, I need to get that dot back. So I'm going to right click it and do set origin to geometry, and that's going to move that dot to the center, so it's back in the center of the geometry. Now this one won't have a dot because it's a mirrored object. The one on the left is a mirrored object. It's not real. Okay, so it looks like I need to put them a little closer together, so I might hit G, front view, and kind of slide them a little closer together. And I kind of want them to be rotated outwards so that they're not perfectly straight, but instead kind of canted out. So if I hit Control 7, then I get an upside down view. So that's looking from the ground straight up. And then I can hit R, and I can rotate those feet, and the other one will rotate oppositely. So just a little bit like that. Looks pretty good. All right, so cool. So that's the basic body of the penguin. And we're going to add a subdivision surface. We can go ahead and do that now. We can go ahead and add a subdivision surface to this body, which is modifier subdivision surface. And yeah, so now if we right click on him and do shade smooth, he's going to look really nice and round. Let's right click on these and do shade smooth. And let's go ahead and right click on the eyes and do shade smooth. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, got his wings, got his body. We'll add some more stuff, but that's enough for this first video. So this will get you caught up in the first couple days of the project. Thanks.